There we go. All right. Well, my name is Linda Sechrist, and I am a journalist. I have been writing about the natural ways to help the body heal itself. And so we are also two of the four people who are involved in creating a website that we hope will help raise consciousness so that people can tap their intelligence to make better decisions. So I'll let Carol introduce herself, and we're going to be talking today about creativity.
So, my name is Carol Roberts, and I've been a practicing physician for more years than I care to admit. The first 10 years of that, I was a conventionally trained, board certified ear, nose, and throat surgeon who was doing a great job at what I did, but I was beginning to get more and more uncomfortable with what I was doing because I kept seeing the same patients coming back over and over again. And every once in a while, I'd hear a rumor from a patient that she went to see a nutritionist or a chiropractor or some lesser being and is now cured. And I would stop for a moment and say, well, I don't know how to do that. Why can't I do that? Why didn't they teach me how to do that? So that became my project for the next 30 years is to learn the right way to treat people, how to eliminate chronic disease and how to make people whole and healthy and cured again. So meanwhile, I was doing surgery and emergency medicine and rescuing people when they got to the brink, and that was satisfying, but it wasn't enough. So anyway, I became more creative in my career, and I kept asking the questions I'd been asking all my life, which is, why are we here? What's it all about? What is the highest and best use of this precious life? So besides doing, just let me, just one more thing. Besides the science part, which is what I had chosen as a career, I needed to pick up the creative side again. And so I started doing art. So we were both very well suited for this topic.
With two different mediums. The first question I'd like to ask you is, where do you think creativity comes from?
So I think it's part and fabric of the universe. I think the universe is a creative force. One might call it consciousness. One might call it God. One might call it the ocean of all that is. I don't care what you call it. Because each of us is unique and different. We speak a different language. We look different. We look out our eyes in different directions. And everybody's view has to be honored and respected. So, provided it's not hurting somebody else. But what was the question?
Where do you think creativity comes from? I think
Oh,
you
yeah, I think it's part of us.
yes. I remember going to in Las Vegas, as speaking about part of us, um, to visit my brother, and we went to the Valley of Fire, which is outside of Las Vegas. It's a national park, a state
Mhm,
park, I think.
mhm.
And we had to climb up these big boulders. There was a ladder there, but there were images that were thousands of years old, that were etched into the stones there. They were hands. They were circles. That seems to be a universal thing with creativity, the circle, the spiral.
Mhm.
And there were animals. Looked like they were probably sheep of some sort, which are still in that park. And
Mhm.
I saw them in the caves in France when I was there. So it in England. Now that I think about it, I went on Sacred Journeys for Women and went on in different sites to see Stonehenge was one, but there was another one. I don't remember what the name of it was, but they're carved into the rocks were the same spirals that I saw in Las Vegas in Valley of Fire. So those are centuries old. So man has been trying to express himself some way, or at least maybe express his outer world some way. And so I was just amazed that think about it, thousands of years old.
We are a creative species, and we have been from the very beginning. That's why we have tools. That's why we not only build structures to shelter us, but they also have to be beautiful. They have to be different from each other. They have to be in some way expressive of our uniqueness. So, I mean, in every aspect of life, one can express creativity. So the way you cook, the way you dress, the way you speak.
Some people often say, "Well, I'm not creative." That's, so you write and you paint, but I'm not creative. And
Mhm.
everybody has some way of creating. It's like you said, carpentry, whether you cook, hairdressers are definitely creative people.
Absolutely.
So there's just thousands of ways to express yourself, to express your creativity.
So, we had been talking before about the role of the mind
Yes.
and how to prime the mind for that creative insight. And it's really a matter of being emotionally involved.
Oh,
You can set your mind to a task, but unless your emotions are involved, it will not satisfy in the way that the creative act is supposed to.
so how do you think, as far as that emotion, that's what is the motivation, that is the inspiration, maybe, is that people have to get motivated. So finding something that you love to do, sewing, uh, anything. For you, it was painting. For me, it was journalism,
Mhm.
being able to write. So, and that came very easy. It was not a real hard thing to do. So, for you, was painting, because you mentioned you had got into back into something that you loved as a child. So,
Yeah, so, being involved in medical school for so long and residency training, and then carrying a practice and being a mom and all of the things that I did, um, there was still something missing. And when I could take a breath finally, and I had a little time, and my practice had fallen apart, and I was left with nothing but time. I decided to pick up the brush again and try to learn how to express my emotions on canvas. So that was my style of expression. I could just as easily have taken up the piano or, dance or any other thing. But this was what I did. And it became a thread that continues to this day and is now I've made it into a tool that can express pretty much anything that I want to say.
and also doesn't, I mean, having that diversity in your life of you have medicine on one hand and you have art on the other, is that it does help to keep us distracted from the craziness that is going on in the world right now. And people were just so afraid. But if you can channel that energy into something creative, it it does eventually just takes your mind away from that, don't you think?
I totally agree, and I think that's one of the most revolutionary things that anyone can do is to pull back from the drama of life and what's on TV and what's going on around us, which doesn't directly impact you most of the time. and begin to tell the new stories, the stories that we want to see in this world, getting away from the stories of dominance and hierarchy and subjection and fealty and blah, 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 all of that, and recreating a model that can work for everyone.
And
So,
you wrote a book. You forgot to say that you did write some, it's called
oh,
Good Medicine.
yeah, I wrote down all the lectures that I give my patients in the office.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't that much of a creative act because I'd already made up those talks. But putting them on paper was a challenge and a lot of fun.
Well, when, we 2 weeks ago we participated in a an event in St. Augustine, and there was something that's where this came from. The idea for doing this came from that. So there's something about the collective mind that generates ideas and being with other people who are also open-minded and creative. Don't you think there's something to that?
Oh, it's magical. We feed off each other and we gain energy and verve and ambition from doing this. And I think that the four of us who are doing this website are benefiting at least as much as anyone else from
Yes.
the doing of it, because it's like giving birth. How long can you be pregnant? Who wants to be pregnant forever? A lot of people have wonderful ideas and they just walk around with them in their heads locked up. Please, people, do yourself and do us a favor and get them out there one way or the other. And don't worry about what anyone will think. That's the thing that keeps people from being
Yes.
creative, right?
Yes. The self, the self-talk that we give ourselves. I remember one of the first things that I learned that was one of those aha moments was Deepak Chopra. He talked about, this is like 25 or 30 years ago, he talked about how the mind is always chattering away. He said, eavesdrop on your mind and you'll find out that the thoughts you had today are the same thoughts that you've been having for, for years. So,
That's right.
yeah, people need something new to think about. And so that, I was mentioning about the collective mind, that physics says that all of our quantum physics now is saying that we're all connected. So there's that the connection, but there's also that spark of something within us, that creative force that's trying to speak. I mean, it's not all about us.
Not at all.
It's about that, and we aren't just living our lives for ourselves. You're talking about finding people finding ways to express themselves. That's a way of serving others.
Yes, yes, exactly. So, if people would just begin by asking themselves, what kind of life have I lived up until now? And what kind of life would I choose to live in the future? You can't change what you did, but you can change your direction. So, one thing a day different is going to make you different down the road. So, like I tell people, you don't turn the Queen Mary around in a minute. It
No.
takes a little time, but you have to be persistent and consistent. So, if you're not happy with your life, change it. Do something else. Create yourself anew. That's the ultimate act of creativity.
And it gives us something else a new story gives us something else to focus on. We all along with pictures, drawing, we've always been a storytelling society.
Mhm.
And I always think about when I was a young person is that we'd sit around the campfire. people used to do that anyway. And we would tell stories. Some of them were pretty scary for a little kid. But it was a way of, passing along information. And we do it on Monday nights. We tell the news story about what we are doing to create the life that we want.
Yes, and the internet has allowed us to be in contact as we are at this moment while we're hundreds of miles away from each other. So the creative ferment has gotten richer,
Oh, definitely.
and it's very easy to dip your toe into the information stream and come out with something new. So it can be fun, but it can also be very time demanding and suck your life if you're not careful. So remember, you're the creator, not anybody else. You create your life and
Yeah.
thereby create the new world. So if you don't like the world as it is, think of something new.
So, what part do you? I keep seeing. I read Michael Pollan's book about how to change your mind, and I've watched all sorts of YouTube videos. And we actually have somebody in Naples that I have interviewed that has a ketamine practice. So, what part do you think psychedelics could play or does play in creativity?
Well, I'm okay. The thing about reading books is you get someone else's opinion.
Yes.
In an indigenous culture, most indigenous cultures had a ritual that was shared by the whole community of going into the psychedelic space together. And they would do it maybe on the full moon or maybe in the equinox or whenever they did. But they did it all together, and therefore they shared that experience. Nowadays, we are taught to fear that experience, to avoid it if we want to be thought of as a good person. But the reason is it's mind blowing, it's mind expanding, and a repressive culture can't stand that. So if you really want to know, read Michael Pollan's book, but then go find someone who can give you something. And you can go to Dreamland yourself and see what all the hype is about. Otherwise, you're just, you're like the surgeon who never operated on anyone but learned his technique from books.
I was listening to I think it's Alex Gray, the
Mm,
artist,
yeah.
and that was how his career in art really took off. And he says art evolves consciousness. It helps to evolve consciousness.
Good art does.
Good art does,
Yeah,
yes,
real art.
yeah,
The
real
rest
art.
of it is decoration. Blobs of color to put on the wall. I'm not a big fan. I like an idea in pictorial form.
Speaking of which, can you, make your screen so we can see your background because it does have some of your paintings and
Yeah.
yeah. So one of
So
the
let's
yeah.
so can you see it or should I get
Oh
up?
yes, yes, you can definitely see it. There's a snake, a vulture, and it looks like a dog. So why
Yes.
don't you talk about
So
that?
this is the art of medicine under attack. And she's being attacked by three creatures, powerful, scary creatures. The snake is the standard of care. Now, that expression came out when I first went into private practice, lo, these many generations ago, and I knew it was the end of the art of medicine. Standard of care means that they tell you what to do, when to do it, how much to give, where to start. Everything is prescribed, and it's the first step toward robotic medicine.
Mhm.
So that was one. The furious vulture in the sky is big pharma which controls medical education from start to finish and makes us into drug dealers, basically. We're now calling it Rockefeller medicine because it was Rockefeller that funded the study in 1910, the Flexner Report, which basically signaled the end of alternative medicine. The homeopaths were run out of the country. The naturopaths were very much shrunk to next to nothing. The midwives and the herbalists were disrespected, et cetera, et cetera. The dog is the FDA.
Uh,
It is the watchdog and the protector of these hideous creatures. So the art of medicine has the caduceus in her hand. She's holding it up as if it were a crucifix. You probably can't see that. And it represents her integrity.
oh,
So she's not without defense. She has her integrity, she's standing her ground, and she has truth on her side. So that's everything I put into that painting.
that's awesome. So that's your creativity came out in symbols and images
Right.
for an explanation. It was your way of explaining the where medicine is now.
Yes, my idea to show it to other people and to give them a different view. You know, I've been a doctor a long time, and to have that image come to me as the way medicine is practiced, that's pretty sad.
It is really. We should have been going forward instead. I feel like I don't even know if we've gone backwards because there,
No,
no.
it's the hierarchical dominance model. It's also capitalist medicine. So when money is more of an incentive than the patient's well-being, you get into this kind of situation.
A sad, sad thing, which, that kind of leads me to sort of a segue into as far as the images go, is the richness of our inner world is, I won't say that it's not that it's far more beautiful, but it's far more complex than just what we see every day. So do you have any meditations or anything that you do for contacting that image, that inner world?
So first you have to be quiet. You can't be talking. You don't learn anything when you're talking. You don't open to the creative spirit. And usually it happens when you're alone and possibly in nature. Nature has a way of evoking imagery and new ideas. And then, of course, there's the psychedelic world that some of us go to on occasion uh, to, and everyone dreams at night.
Yes,
It's kind of the same space because you don't know what's going to come up. You don't know what to expect. The imagery is unique to you, both in dreams and in psychedelics.
that's interesting. So
Um,
there's no universal images that appear in dreams or in psychedelics. If you looked at a commonality for something.
oh, of course. I mean, that's the whole thing with Jung and archetypes. So there are archetypes, but the archetypes can shape shift and be different for different people and bring different messages. Yes, there are certainly these universal symbols, the spiral, the hand,
Yes,
the animal, the astrological symbol or sign,
yes.
and the tarot. We come up with these things to tell our stories.
I
So,
didn't think about that. I have to plug in here. I just noticed my battery's going low. So I'm going to lean over here and
okay, we'll give Bob a chance to edit.
yes, you can edit that out. Okay, I'm safe now. um, You know that when I said that we had gone over to St. Augustine and had a group of us, the other thing that we talked about there was the synchronicities. That kind of tells you that you're on the right. That's how I look at it. They're messages from the universe tapping me on the shoulder to do
Mhm.
something, to see something. And then there's the library angels where they just drop books in your lap, which is
Oh,
what happened to me.
yes.
For In Quincy, Massachusetts. I was walking through the library, and I think I'll forget what department I was in, but the hero with 1,000 faces dropped off, literally just fell off of the shelf. So off and running I was. And then what do I see? The Power of Myth, Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers on television. Was
Wow.
wow, what more do you need?
And then you find there are other people who are eating it up too. And then you can hook up. And you and I have known each other, what, 30 years or more?
For a long time.
Yeah. And we've always been excited to see each other. I know I'm going to get things from you that I can't even imagine. Hopefully, vice versa. And, you know, we may look like conventional people, but we're not.
No, no, we're not. And I'm glad we're not.
Exactly.
I think that the chaos that is happening in our world now is helping for the to produce something. I mean, that creativity generally comes out of chaos. So it may sound illogical, but now people are thinking how to solve problems that we didn't have in the past. And they're talking with each other how to do it. So they're building the collective field, so to speak, and putting new information in it. And the airwaves that we are now, the energy medicine,
Mhm.
that's a good thing to talk about because I firmly believe in it. I'm a big fan of Donna Eden's
Mhm.
work.
Well, I want to go back to what you said about chaos,
Yes.
because we are reaching a point where we can't survive, we can't sustain ourselves with this ever increasing pressure in so many ways, in so many directions. So I visualize it though as the birthing process.
Ah, yes.
A baby, imagine a baby floating in bliss, in nirvana, in a uterus, right, for 9 months. And everything is provided and nothing is required. And this baby is having a great time. And then all of a sudden, one day, the walls close in.
Yeah.
The walls close in, and you're stuck there, and you're in pain, and you're being, things are happening that you can't even understand. And then finally, the it's like, the a door opens and you start to move. At least you move, so that's better than being stuck there and pressured from every direction. But now you're moving and you don't know where you're going. You don't know anything about what's waiting for you, but you know you're being pushed out by a force that you cannot resist. So, I mean, it's one thing for the mother, but imagine what it is for that baby.
Scary.
Scary, painful,
Yeah.
terrifying, new. And then, boom, all of a sudden you're out and it's cold and it's bright and there's all sorts of things, noises you don't understand, and things are happening and you start screaming because and then suddenly something warm wraps around you and you're completely against your mother's skin, and you hear her voice, which you've known in utero, and suddenly, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I can stand this. So we're doing that now, and hopefully this website will contribute what it can to the birthing of a new world that we all know we need. We can't keep doing what we've been doing.
No, it reminds me of Charles Eisenstein, who said, a more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
That's
it.
what we're after.
Mhm.
But we need people focused on the parts of a new story
Mhm.
to be able to birth that world. You know, they and the Maharishi effect. Remember the stories about that and how they were able, a collective group of people were able to affect crime in Washington D.C. And then you have Lynn McTaggart's The Power of Eight, where she's bringing people together and people are healed. So there is something about that collective mind. And there's something about the fact that there's energy in the space between us is not empty space.
No, it isn't. And just because we don't have sensors that are equipped to apprehend that energy doesn't mean it's not there, because our hearts know it, our guts know it. And like I say to doctors who don't want to believe in energy medicine, do you believe in radio waves? Would
Uh,
you believe in radio waves if you never had a radio? Of course you wouldn't.
yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're not real. So we are multi-dimensional, not just sacks of chemicals. And we don't end at our skin. We influence each other and we send out waves everywhere. So yeah, it's very cool, very cool.
Very. Do you think there's some sort of a magical formula for creativity for people catching the spark? Can you help it along in your life?
Oh, for sure. So number one is stop repressing all these old stories that you don't need to be carrying around anymore. You're spending a lot of energy being angry or sad about something that happened long, long time ago, being down on yourself for no good reason because somebody said something once. So stop that. Stop wasting your energy thinking you are less than and just be who you actually are. So I would recommend Michael Singer's work.
Oh, I
His,
love him. I do. Mickey
yeah,
Singer. Awesome.
The Untethered Soul is the book. He's got podcasts. They are right on target, simple, undenominational, and just so true. And that liberates the creative power because it comes from who you actually are. And who you actually are is a spark of the creative source of everything. Duh.
He used to come to, Mickey Singer used to come to the ashram where Amrit used to teach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was his temple, the Universal Temple of Spirit, wasn't that far from the ashram. So we used to go there occasionally to hear him speak. And after he wrote that book, Untethered Soul, the first chapter, I could have stopped that. That it was and read it over and over and over again because he talked about the mind. All it does is just chatter, 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 chatter. And people listen to it. They're addicted to their thinking.
What a mistake.
Yeah.
So I like to describe the mind as a power tool, and it can be wonderful as a tool, but it should never be in charge. It doesn't deserve to be in charge. It's not that it doesn't decide for the greater good. It decides according to whatever um, parameters it's been taught. So you can use your mind in the creative endeavor, but your mind is not going to lead you there. It's going to be your heart or your gut
Mhm.
that has something important to say. And then you use your mind to get it out there.
Yes. And I think the more good things that you put into the mind, the more it can repeat that instead of the junk that it comes up with.
Yeah, if you eat junk food, you'll have a junky body. If you feed your mind all the stuff, when they've got you by the eyeballs, They can drill anything they want straight into your brain. So I must admit, I'm addicted. I'll sit here and do computer work. The TV will be on. TV's on no matter what I'm doing.
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
necessarily pay attention to it, but it's a very bad habit, and I need to break myself of that. But just as bad is people hauling around old grievances because they're like ball and chain.
They are.
You've got to cut yourself loose, decide that you deserve to be happy, you deserve to be free, and leave all that old junk for somebody else. You know, you can come back and get it if you want to, but give yourself a break.
The man who wrote Emotional Code, I don't remember what his name is, but he talks in there about his finding energy blocks within people, but they were always repressed emotions around a trauma that they had experienced in their life. And he would release that energy from them, and their lives could change because they it was the ball and chain, one of the balls and chains that they were carrying. So
Exactly.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And psychedelics can be used for that purpose. So
Okay.
if you go into a psychedelic experience with an intention, you will get an answer. You will be rewarded. If you go into it, just, hey, what's this like? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do this to impress my friends. Then it's not the proper use and it's unpredictable what you're going to get. But I've found that people who do psychedelics will first have to wade through the old stuff that they're bringing with them, the sadness, the anger, the repressed feelings, the ball and chain. And they have to cut them away before they can experience the deep love that awaits on the other side. And it can happen in one session. It can happen in every session. Every session is different, but it's like dreams. It's really like dreams because you don't know what's going to come up. But it also is distanced enough that it's not going to kill you, it's not going to hurt you, and you will come back lighter and happier and in a better place.
No, I know that. I was just remembering you studied with Alberto Valola.
Yes.
What part do you think shamanism, the study of shamanism, might play in creativity?
Wow. So shamanism is the old ways of doing medicine. And most indigenous communities had a shaman, or actually, it was just as likely to be a woman as a man. So let's not forget to say that.
Yes.
Women have been healers all through our human history. And the shaman, rather than giving potions to the patient the way we do in Western medicine, takes the potion himself
Oh,
and goes to the spirit world on behalf of the patient to argue his case as a lawyer would and try to get the spirits to help that patient get well. And you'd be surprised how often it works. So the Peruvian shamans call it Dr. Ayahuasca,
oh, okay.
and they completely trust whatever is shown to them and to the patient under its influence. So it's quite astonishing and powerful, but it's a different model.
I find that I don't know about other doctors, but I know about you. You're rather unique in that you studied medicine for years. And now you've gone back into your art, whether it's a distraction from the chaos or a way of you enjoying life. You studied shamanism. All these things have to help you in your practice, but they also help you live a fuller life.
Well, I thank you for noticing. When you realize that something's been left out, it's time to pick it up and do something with it. If you have curiosity about something, go after it. You say that there are little what do you call them? Synchronicities
Mhm.
that happen to us. Watch for those. They're God winking at you,
Uh,
right? And luring you on. This morning, I got out of bed and got dressed. My son comes upstairs and he's wearing a Ranger t-shirt. Okay. He used to be in the Army Rangers.
okay.
I had just pulled out from the back of the closet and put on my Ranger t-shirt.
Oh my goodness.
So, okay, what does that mean? I don't know what it means. It means we're connected. It means we had a little laugh, but it's that kind of thing that can really open a door to something that you've forgotten or you might want to explore. So, being creative means having an open mind and having a willingness.
And paying attention, but you have to pay attention to those secrets that happen. You don't just go, "Oh, that's interesting," and then move on.
Oh, so I used to find money on the ground all the time.
Yes.
I would expect it, where's my penny? And there it would be. And so one day I'm explaining this to a younger person, and we were in the car. We get out of the car, and there's my age in coins on the ground.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So, sometimes the universe just supports your craziness. And the person, he'll never forget that. And he's become more interested in the metaphysical since then, that young person. So you don't know where things are leading, you don't know why, but it's kind of fun to follow them.
It
So
is. It
that
is.
is
That, and you mentioned the metaphysical. That's important, I think, for people to study that. If otherwise you've just got the physical world, but you don't have anything underneath it that's actually supporting that. The metaphysical supports the physical world.
exactly. Are you familiar with the Galileo Commission?
You've mentioned it, so, or we got something from, I think you sent something to us. What
I
is
was so excited. So the Galileo Commission came out of Noetic Sciences somehow or other,
okay.
and they have produced a treatise that will change the underpinnings of science. Science as it exists now is purely materialistic,
Yes, it is.
and it misses all this stuff that we've been talking about. It can't explain it, and so it ignores it, it dismisses it, it denies it. But people are having these experiences and they know they're true. So the Galileo Commission is proposing a new set of postulates to underlie science that will expand our understanding and allow us to explain these kinds of phenomena. So that might be something that some science geek might want to take a look at.
Well, if I look under Galileo Commission, is that where I'm going to find it? Do they have anything on
I
the?
don't know. I haven't looked it up on the internet. I bought the book, so I
Oh,
own it.
okay.
And because I felt it was such a seminal thing, one day they're going to look, oh dear, they're going to look at that and say that was a turning point.
Okay. So is that what the book is called?
Yes, it's the Galileo Commission is a group of people who
Okay.
got together and rewrote the postulates of science.
Okay. All right. I'm going to look for that. That sounds like something I'd like to include in my library. What part do you think silence plays in creativity?
Well, silence allows you to access your inner knowing, and that's crucial and indispensable for allowing that creative energy to come out.
I live by myself, so I know what that is like. I value that. It's almost like I need more of it probably than the average person walking down the street, but then I'm an introvert, so that makes it so.
Yeah,
And
you have to know yourself, but you're also very comfortable with people.
yes,
Have a good balance.
the right people that when I can get in conversation like we did 2 weeks ago, I'm fine. But it used to take me out to a social event and I'm looking for the nearest plant to hide behind. Looking at my watch, is it time to go home? You mentioned about the community, and I had read where the Eleusis mysteries, the Greeks, that they now believe they were not allowed to write anything down, to record that. So a lot of people make get stabs at that. But one of the things that they thought probably happened was they all took something, some kind of a psychedelic that they would then come together in once. I think it was during whatever during the equinox and have a gathering. And I thought, how great is that? I mean, to have a whole community of people whose minds are changed at the same time or opened at the same time that you can leave there and talk about it and it really gets integrated into your life by that, don't you think?
And that's how it used to be. It wasn't just Greece. It's every indigenous community in the world would do psychedelics together, or do ecstatic dance, or do drumming, or do something to get into that space. And we're the only ones who've made it illegal.
Hmm.
So guess what? There's been a thriving underground since the 60s.
Yes.
And people are still doing it at risk to themselves and their careers and whatnot. But it is that important and that rewarding to do it together that it continues to be done.
Well, I I've read a lot. So what I've found is that most of the creative people or the visionaries all had a psychedelic experience in their teens or in their 20s. And that's what has allowed them the the imagination, to come up with these. Some of them write books, some of them, as paint. Alex Gray was the one who talked about his first psychedelic experience. It just changed his life. And his art is incredible. It's incredible.
Please, anybody who doesn't know Alex Gray, look him up. The Sacred Mirrors is
Yes.
a series of, you stand in front of it as if it were a mirror. It's life size, it's a silhouette or a figure of a human being from the table of the elements out to the psychic energy field and everything in between. It's fabulous. It's beautifully executed and it is transformative just to look at it.
I've
Yes,
s-
thank you.
I've seen them printed in books, but I didn't realize that they were life size paintings.
Yes. And they're meant to be like as if it were a self-portrait. It's
Oh,
the human being. So it's first the table of the elements, and then it's the bones, the skeletal structure, and then the cardiovascular system, the nervous system, the guts, then the kishkas, the organs, the skin in various colors and shapes. And then you get to the psychic field, which is what you're introducing here, which is an energetic emanation and has a flow and an anatomy to it. And he has captured it perfectly. And then he goes even to the Indra's net, which in Hindu,
Sharon Joy loves,
it
yeah.
each of us is a nexus point in the web of life.
Yes.
So he gets there too. And it's phenomenal, phenomenal.
Well, I've never seen it other than printed in a book. So I would love to see it. I think he said he has a gallery in the Hudson Valley. So I'm going to
Yep.
check it out.
Not far from the Omega Institute,
Oh, okay.
like
Uh,
the Esalen on the East
I
Coast.
never did get there either. Did
Oh,
you?
yes, that's where I did several of my shaman training courses, and I did other things there too. Yes, when I found Esalen, that was it because they had the answers and I had the questions.
Yes. Well, I think it's still around. I mean, Esalen is still open, but I never got there. I used to dream about that was on my bucket list. So
We should
maybe
go.
I can
We
still
should
do it.
go. We should go.
Yes, we should. We should. Well, I think we've covered most anything, everything, unless you have something else that we might have missed. Well, we
No,
can.
I have to go off to the next thing,
Oh,
sadly. But this has been great fun.
yes,
Look
yes,
forward to doing it again.
and yes, and we will.
And we're going to post these, edit them, post them, put them out there, and hope that the universe likes it.
Someone will. Well, you have a good afternoon, Carol.
Thank you, my dear girl. You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.